And oh, maybe. Sorry, guys. My screen does not want to share. Okay, I think we're good now. Jen, I can see you. Can you give me a quick thumbs up if you can see my screen? Thank
Yep,
you.
your screen is good.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are recording. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for our Canine Educational Series this month. The topic this month is going to be talking about fear with our dogs in shelter, as well as some tips that you might be able to work with at home or with your fosters at home. We'll be joined by Beth Chamberlain from our behavior program. And if you're unfamiliar with me, my name is Ashley Ray, and I am on the volunteer team. And Jennifer Rosen is on our volunteer team as well, and she's joining us today.
Welcome, everybody.
All right, so just some objectives as we get started. Some of the things that we want you to take away from this presentation. What is fear? What does that look like? We're going to review some body signs, body language and signs that we want to look for as we're handling or walking through the shelter, throughout the entire process, really, not just when we're determining whether to pick a dog out of their kennel, but also while they're spending time with us to continually check on that body language. Creating positive experiences for our animals in shelter. We want to talk about how can we work with these fear animals and how can we support them. And then as volunteers, as always, we like to give you tools, volunteers, fosters, and just people at home, how you can support our animals that have fear. Okay. And this is just something that we've been kind of sharing throughout this canine behavior series, that we have a responsibility to shelter animals to make their stay with us as happy and healthy as possible. The shelter is not, the worst place to stay, but it's maybe not the best place to stay either. But how can we always move forward and making sure that it is the best place that we can make it with the resources and the skills that we have? And we really want our animals in our care to be happy and healthy as possible. Okay, so what is fear? We're going to give you guys a little bit more of a breakdown than this, but just to kind of start, we're going to talk about the fact that not all fear comes from something that happened to an animal. Some of it is predisposition. Some of it's just kind of how that animal is, their personality. A little bit more timid, a little bit unsure of things. If you've ever spent time with puppies, multiple puppies, maybe at a pen at one of our events or something, you might notice like some of them are more outgoing and they're just really wanting to see people and they're really excited. Other ones might be kind of hiding in the back. They're really young at that point, and some of that's just their personality. It doesn't necessarily mean something horrible happened to them. That could be something, of course, but that doesn't necessarily mean that. And they may be fearful due to improper early socialization. So, with people or other animals, maybe if they're just not sure of what warning signs to look for, they're not sure of what behaviors in other animals to look for, they might be a little more fearful because they're just not familiar with these circumstances and they're still trying to learn some of those ways to navigate those experiences with other animals or people. And then some of it is learned experiences. So, like I said, some of it's innate and it's born into them a little bit, depending on their personality, but some of it is learned experiences. We know that sometimes our animals go through not the greatest things. Outside of the shelter, when they come to us, they might be coming with all sorts of experiences that they've had that have created these reactions, just like they will with people. Anything that you go through, your body learns and your head learns that they need to react in a certain way to keep you safe or to keep you away from a certain situation. Same thing happens with our animals. They learn that maybe hiding in the back of my kennel is going to keep me safe because in a previous situation, it kept me safe as well. So some of that fear is from learned experiences. Oh, sorry, guys, I got someone coming in. All right, we'll keep going. All right. I lost count, Beth. Is this you or me? I'm so sorry.
I believe this is me.
All right.
So we're going to talk about body language, right? And really what it is a process to communicate non-verbally through conscious and unconscious gestures and movements. So our main language is usually speech. For dogs, it's body language. And believe it or not, they learn or they don't learn how to read us. And so that's where we can see some of the fear. If you haven't had a lot of experience of reading humans, you may not know how to. So some of the things that we really want to be aware of in order to help these dogs is to really try to read their body language, because they're trying to tell us how they're feeling. And that's really, really important for us to pay attention to for safety purposes, also to lower their stress. So some of the things that they'll do: avoidance, moving away from the person, object, or situation, averting their eye contact, tail tucked underneath their belly or straight down, slow movement or freezing, the displacement behaviors such as lip licking. If you guys walk down the kennels, you're going to see a lot of dogs that will just lip lick, and it's really just a little stress on board. Displacement behavior such as lip licking or yawning, right? Yawning when they're really not tired, they're just feeling stress, and that's a way to express some of that. Their pupils can dilate. With some breeds, you can't really tell with the dogs with the shaggy hair in their eyes, or if they're all a dark colored dog and they have dark eyes, you can't necessarily see very well. So it's just one of the things that you might see. Trembling, flattening their body to the ground, panting or pacing, refusing to accept food or treats, right? Those are things that we might see right away. Sometimes it's subtle, like the tail that I was talking about. Sometimes, okay, well, we know, most of us know that if the tail tucks underneath, we know that's probably a scared dog. But if it just suddenly drops straight down, that's a subtle sign to something's changing the environment that is causing them some stress. It's something to pay attention to.
Yeah, while you guys are just taking a look at these, we will be sending out this presentation afterward, so you'll have this list. But if you are coming across any of these and you're not sure, or you have additional questions about what some of this might look like, please feel free to drop that in the chat if you have, just any questions about any of these. We know sometimes you might not see them outright at the shelters, but they do happen, and it can be hard to identify if you're not familiar with them. So please ask questions.
I just wanted to add too, you may see one, two, or many of these things. It's really important to look at the entire picture. I know, Beth, you kind of started to move in that direction, just because we see yawning, but we see nothing else that matches, fear. It might not be fear. We have to look at the whole picture. So we're going to talk about that a little bit further down in the presentation, but just wanted to point that out.
So how to identify and see, I think that this dog's tail is maybe tucked. It could be up or down, it could be wagging, it could be a low wag, a real fast wag. People think a wagging tail could mean the dog is happy and friendly, but not necessarily. It depends on the wag, the carriage of the tail, and all the other things. Like Jen was saying, that it's always from tail to nose. You're paying attention to the whole body. One of the things I like about this photograph is something that people miss often, and I call it the C curve. So if you can see the hands down on the bottom, they're reaching for the dog. The ears are back, right? But the body is curved. So it's kind of showing you, is like, I got all this to back me up and I'd really rather not. But it's one of those things. Sometimes they curve away from you or they curve around you, just like this. It's kind of like saying, look, I got all this Hulk if I need to, please don't make me do it. So the carriage is really, really important. Standing fully upright, right? The eyes averted down, the head is dropped. Like I said, the ears are back. Even the whiskers, if you can see them, are back. Pretty stiff.
Yeah, I like to look at this photo because I think if we saw this dog in person, we might not think that it's got a lot going on, but being able to sit and kind of take a look more deeply at what we're noticing. That's why we like to do these types of presentations, is because sometimes in person it's hard. When you actually get to see this and break it down, it makes it a little bit easier on you. So there's quite a few different things that we're noticing in just a simple photo of this dog. And we're going to take a look at a couple here on the next couple of slides. And we want you guys to kind of participate with us on this. So get ready to get on your chat, get your keyboards ready and all that. But we're going to show you a picture, and we want to just kind of get your ideas of what you're seeing that may be signs of fear that you might notice.
So what's this look like to everyone? Can people point out what they're seeing?
If you don't remember how to get to that chat, just take your mouse down to the bottom of the screen. There will be a little quote box with 3 dots in it. It says chat under it. Go ahead and click on that, and you can put your answers right in there for me. So Todd shared, it looks like he might be afraid of something. Joy said eyebrows are up. Victoria said whale eyes, fear, ears back, ears down, whites of the eyes showing. Veed said cowering. Adina said anxious, very uncertain, ears back, low to the ground. A lot of these are all really, really great answers. Beth,
Yeah.
you want to walk us through it?
Yes, ears back, feet close, right, very good. With this particular dog, you can see, and somebody brought it up, the furrowed brow, it kind of goes in, right? Like a worried, concerned look. And yes, we see a little bit of the white of the eye that we oftentimes call a whale eye, and it's an averted gaze. It's like I'm watching every move you make, but I'm gonna try to avoid looking directly at you. Head is down, ears are pinned back, crouching, stiff. Yes, the front feet are up, ready. Looks like it's crawling, right? So we sometimes call it pancaking in the shelter, where the dog's like, I can't do this. I shut down. So I'm going down to the ground. I can't move. I can't do anything right now. So you guys nailed it, really.
You guys are awesome.
Sad little dog, isn't he?
All right. Jen, is there any questions or anything in the chat before I move forward?
There are some questions, but I think let's hang on before we get to those.
Okay.
We've got a couple more for you here.
Okay, so what do we see on the left with the black and tan dog? I think they want black and tan.
Yes, I'll be honest, things were supposed to move in this presentation and they're not moving. So it was supposed to be just
Oh.
black and tan dog first.
Oh.
So yes, guys, if you could focus on the black and tan dog first,
Yeah.
and put your notes in there, that'd be great.
Yeah, tell us what body language you're seeing. So we got Caroline. Looks like it may be, oh, come on. Cowering. Todd, playful mood. Adina, stiff, not quite comfortable. My chat just doesn't want to work today. Submissive, Annette put in there. Great. Anybody else? Any other things? Got one more in here. We got a grimace, Joyce says. This is really great, guys.
Good
Really,
one.
really
Yeah,
good.
really.
Laura said showing their belly, but the face is a little tight. Clown face from Len. I'm guessing that's the other guy though, not the
Yeah.
averting their gaze is Diane Heil. Okay, great. All right. What do we see, Beth? What's going on in that first picture on the
Right.
left?
So you guys were getting it. So the grimace was that's a good catch. You can see that the lips are back, right? Usually when dogs are fearful, and we call it defense, which, okay, fight or flight, we all know about that, right? In defense, everything's going to go back. So the whiskers will go back, the ears go back, even the eyes, they kind of, right? And sometimes their little lips will go back too. The legs are tight. The body, it looks like maybe, we can't see the whole picture, but it looks like maybe a roll over. Brown and white, looks happy and open. Yes. So we're going to compare and contrast to the other dog. So if the dog is showing its belly, there's a reason that we put the dog on the right hand side. Because I wanted to talk a little bit about when a dog rolls over. There's various reasons a dog will roll over on its back. And sometimes it looks like an invitation to pet, right? So the dog on the right, which we could, yes, we were talking, some people were saying stuff, it looks happy, it looks like a clown mouth. It's not necessarily a clown mouth, but it is open and, right? So if we reach for the dog on the left, we might get a bite because the dog is tapping out. It's saying, I can't do this, please. I'm a worm, leave me alone. And the dog on the right, this wonderful guy, is just rolling around, probably getting a little bit of a scritch on his back. But also, I don't know if necessarily he wants a belly rub or not, but there is a difference. So if we could see the left dog, the tail might be tucked or really, really low. Everything's tight, averted gaze. This fellow over here on the right is kind of looking our way, lolling tongue, soft. His tail is out and he's kind of just really enjoying the grass. It feels really good. So he may want a belly rub. Oftentimes it's just, this feels really, really good. And he's definitely more relaxed. So if a dog rolls over and you think, oh, he just wants a belly rub, it's not necessarily. Look at the whole body. And you guys pointed out everything on the black and tan dog really nicely to say, that would not be a dog I would touch his belly for. Even though it's kind of tempting because they're cute, but it's not something the dog is actually asking for. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's, oh, I'm sorry, Jen.
That's all right. Go ahead, Ashley.
I was just gonna say that I think it is really difficult to tell in a shelter environment, just in general, because a lot of times when they are rolling over, it's kind of in an odd situation. Like sometimes it's just at a door, sometimes, and I think a lot of times that tells me that they're not really interested in it because it's in a weird situation. But for myself, I tried really hard to just avoid trying to give belly rubs, because it's too easily for me to not understand what this dog is asking for. And a lot of times it is like they're just trying to enjoy themselves, maybe like this brown and white guy on the side where they're just trying to enjoy, a back scratch or something like that. So it's also vulnerable for me to be in that space, like low down next to them. They can kick me in the face and things like that by accident. So overall, I kind of am just err on the side of caution a little bit when it comes to belly rubs in the shelter.
Good point.
One of the things I just wanted to add is I love that Annette said, the guy on the left, it's submissive behavior. It is because of everything that we're seeing, even though
Yeah.
like the belly is exposed, all the other things in the picture are leading us towards he's uncomfortable. The ears, the indirect eye contact, the grimace, or the what do I call that? It's in our positive start training, the tight mouth. That's a great example of a tight mouth. You can see that little ridge where the muscle is bunched up at the end of his muzzle, at the end of his lips there. His paws are back to almost kind of like protect and keep them close to the body. And I know that looks very similar to the guy on the right, but the difference is, look at his belly is straight up in the air, straight up, the whole chest. The guy on the right, the white dog, is making eye contact with us, direct
Yeah.
eye contact. Even though his mouth is open, it's soft. Like, I'm not surprised
Right.
that we don't see the tongue, like you said, Beth, lolling out to the
Lying out,
side.
yeah.
Like, he's very much just letting it all out there. He's not trying to really tuck anything in. And I agree, if this was a moving picture, this would be a dog that would be rolling back
Yeah.
and forth like wild on the grass,
It feels
getting
good.
his back scratched and being kind of silly. Like, I wouldn't be surprised either if we saw a play bow, where I can imagine the dog on the left being very rigid, right? And not slow movements, not, really watching us and being wary. So whether we're in a shelter environment or a home environment, both of these pictures are very real. And I think we could
Yeah.
expect to see them in both places. So
Yeah.
again, this is great information, whether you're on site or a foster. You probably see it. Annette, foster, submissive behavior. I really, really love that, you're able to see that, because it's not, a lot of people get it wrong. They see a dog's rolling over, and even though there's a lot of submissive behavior, the tail is tucked, they may be even piddling, they're not making direct eye contact with us, they're lip licking, people are still trying to pet the belly. Now, while the dog might allow it, that doesn't mean that they're enjoying it. So we don't want to like force the dog to, interact with in a way that they're not super comfortable with.
Yep.
Okay, good job, guys. Next one.
All right, so what do we see in this little houndy?
Go ahead and drop those in the chat for us.
It's a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
Skeptical, I love it.
That's a good one.
Whale
Right.
eyes.
Yeah. Cautious
Curious
but
but
unsure.
unsure.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that. Judgy. I love it.
I mean, it's not a wrong descriptor.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Not objective language, but it's not incorrect.
Right.
Which maybe that's something we should talk about in one of our next future ones. Objective versus subjective language to
Yeah,
describe body
got
language.
content on it, it'd be great. So, yes, I think all of those things, the ears are back or down flat. So dogs' carriage of their ears is really important to pay attention to. Everything, like we always say, but if we were to be a rabbit running across, I'll bet the ears would come out, right? And they're gonna come forward. It's like, woo, I'm going for it. When they're flattened down like that, beautiful whale eye. That's why this picture is so crystal clear. Unsure. The whiskers are out. There's not a a grimace like we were talking about before, but it looks a little stiff. Not sure. Definitely making eye contact with probably the photographer. So uncertain for sure. It kind of looks like he's saying, "What you talking about, Willis?" Right? Well, I don't know what's going on. I'm watching you. Just unsure. Unsure. It could go either way. It could be if you talk to him and he's like, "Oh, everything's fine." But again, I like the freeze frame because you can break down what we're seeing right at the moment and say, okay, let's see what's going on. We're gonna slow down our roll so we don't cause the dog to go one way or the other, which is not a great decision for them to make.
Yeah, Beth, when I look at this picture, I've definitely had a dog like this, on a walk or something. And it's
Yeah.
almost, I'm picturing in the moment, we get maybe closer to the parking lot and they stop and they look at me like this, like, are you gonna take me there? Because I don't want to. How would you potentially move forward with that dog? What would be your steps forward?
Yes, for sure.
I think that it would be for our volunteers smart, like if you're on property and our dogs, look like this, it's good to listen to them if they're telling you that they don't want to go any further to that parking lot and they're stopping and freezing, and maybe heading back toward the building or back to wherever they did feel comfortable before this body language appeared.
Yeah, I agree.
So you got the opposite of that too. What if you were out and you're returning and then they put on the brakes? And that could happen in a foster home or again on site because I was really enjoying my stress-free walk, or at least it was more stress-free than having to go back into the noisy shelter or go back into my foster home, which I'm still getting used to, right? Any tips or tricks on that, Beth?
Yeah, I think that I always think path of least resistance. If the dog is having, oftentimes at the Mackey, we're the north, was it north side, I believe. I-75 runs there, and some dogs, when we get closer to that, as we're walking around the building, the dogs will put the brakes on and say, I can't do this. And they start to freeze and panic. So what we do is we just kind of turn around and we meander. Let's go sniff the grass. Maybe I'll toss some treats the opposite way of whatever the dog was afraid of and see if he wants to eat. Sometimes they're too afraid to eat. So sometimes I will stop and just wait for the dog to just calm down, but I really want to get away from whatever might trigger them. If you're coming out again at one of the buildings and the trash collectors are there, that it's going to make a large sound, I'm going to go the opposite direction. I don't want the dog to panic while I have him on the leash out there. So yes, we have. And there's been times where dogs absolutely, they do the pancake and you just wait for somebody to come by and say, hey, can you get somebody from the behavior department to assist me the dog won't walk anymore. It's happened. It's happened to me. Sometimes it's just, we're gonna stand here and we're gonna wait. And then we're gonna try again, but we're gonna try what's the least resistance. So if the dog is afraid of dogs that are barking down the hallway or the laundry area, I'm gonna go out a different door. And I might enter a different door too, that sometimes will, my brother would say, fake them out, right? But you take them a different route to bring them back because they're like, I don't know where this is going, but it's not what I know is what I don't want. So
Mhm.
sometimes that works as well.
Those are great tips. I love that. The different door is one of my tried and true tricks.
Yeah.
You know that door means a certain thing, so we'll just switch it up. Go to the opposite side of the building. Yes, you have to walk through the shelter a little bit more, but usually at least you can get the dog's feet moving because you're moving, like you said, away from the thing that's scary or like they're
Yeah.
not feeling that great about. And I think in a foster home, same thing, maybe you're out on a walk. Well, can you just walk into the backyard first?
Right.
And do some fun stuff in the backyard and maybe call them into the house with some treats from the back door instead of the front door. Again, just thinking outside the box. Don't really want to force it, want to take your time. Yes, we can't wait forever, but if you just try to drag or pull, they're really going to put those brakes on even further. So you kind of want to coax them and take your time to help build confidence.
Another good point with, if you have a dog that has a tendency to do that, and we've had that too, is that when you do come back in, take them to an acquaintance room or the PEC or Mackie is available, just an area, or even in the lobby before we open, just to sit. Maybe give him some treats, give him something a little chewy. So he's having a nice experience and it's not directly back into the kennel. Sometimes they just need that and they're starting to panic a little bit to say, oh no, they're gonna put me back. Now that's one of the reasons that I don't give water when I'm walking, because I want them to go back to the source of, they know the water's in the kennel and they're gonna get a little thirsty. So that's kind of a help and an incentive too, to get them back once you're done with the treats and the time out before they have to go back in.
Yeah, we have lots of resources. And like Beth said, like never be afraid to ask
Yeah.
for help from someone, flag down a staff member or, even just somebody who's working outside and just like, hey, can you go grab me somebody? That's
Yep.
totally okay to do, instead of forcing it.
Yep.
Okay, I think this is our last one.
All right, so what do we see here? He's so tiny.
He's so cute.
Gosh.
Guys, go ahead and drop in the chat what you think about this guy here.
Afraid for sure.
It makes me sad just looking at him. Like it's such a sad little
Scared
face.
and nervous, yeah.
So we know he's scared and nervous, right? But what body language?
else
Like
do you
what
see?
how does his body look that tells us? Tense. Yep. Low to the ground. Great.
Hunched over,
Yeah.
whale eye, yep.
Bad ears, nervous, crouching, whale eyes. Yeah. His head is down, right? He's lowering the head, trying to get that head lower than the body. Ears are stiff. Yeah, the ears don't look relaxed to me. They're either panned to the side, they're out like trying to gather information, listening to all the things that are happening around. Ears are back hovering. Great. I also notice the way his body is positioned. Notice one
Yeah.
leg is forward and one leg is back. He's ready to like shift that weight back immediately if he can, or if he needs to, go forward, which hopefully we don't have to go forward. We don't want to pressure him, and that's why we talk about not pressuring dogs, is because if they feel like we're not listening to what they're trying to tell us through their communication, which is body signals, sometimes they up the ante, right? And most bites aren't unpredictable. They can be, but most aren't. They're communicating with us ahead of time to let them know that they're uncomfortable. Feet spread, ready to bolt. Love it. Great.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to see in a still, but sometimes it makes it easier. Like you said, Beth, you can really break it down.
Yeah.
Maggie said, looks like he knows he did something wrong. Yeah, could be too. This is sometimes people do. They, verbally, correct things that their animals do, and that can cause fear or discomfort. So that's one of the reasons why we don't use a lot of verbal commands or verbal correction at the shelter. It's all about rewarding the positive behaviors that we want to see. So maybe we'll
Yeah.
put that in there, a link to our positive obedience training or positive reinforcement that we did earlier as a resource. This is great, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, that was really good. And again, this is a dog that pricked-eared dog. They go straight up normally. And the airplane is, they're dropping as much as they can because they don't go down by their, like that hound dog, right? But all of those were good. If you can see the whiskers are back too, right? They're not, they're usually come out like this, but they're back. So we don't want to push it. You're right, Jen, that to make them make a better, okay, you're not hearing me, so now I have to do something more to back you down because I'm really afraid. And I'm not comfortable with this. Please read my body language. I'm trying to tell you. Good answers.
It's great, guys. Thank you. That was perfect.
Okay, so I think this is me too.
So too, I'll join in if you need me.
Okay, creating a positive experience. So not always what you would expect, right? Socialization, right? They want to be with someone and they want to be out. We want to socialize our dogs because obviously we want them to go to a home, right? We can't keep them there forever. Being left alone sometimes is really can be, you know, some people think, oh, they got to get out, they got to walk, they got to walk. Well, if they're that traumatized and they don't want to come out, we don't force them. We do some other things to help that dog. Behavior department, it's on their radar. They do walkthroughs every single day to say this dog needs either medication or we're going to start doing some other things to help him. Dropping treats is always helpful. Turning your body sideways. This is one of my favorite things. Whether the dog looks friendly or not, when I go up to the kennels especially, think about it. They're trapped. They can't go anywhere. I have the freedom to move away, to avoid, to avert, all these things. So I turn my body just a little sideways and I avert my gaze a little bit and I might talk soft, nice, sweet talk, baby talk, whatever. But I avoid contact unless they're happy, then I might look at them directly. But you know, a frontal approach can be very intimidating for these guys. Again, they're in their kennel. They can't really get away. So I don't want to intimidate them. I'm going to walk by. I'm going to talk nicely. I'm going to drop treats. I try not to overhand, just clink a treat in there. Because that can be scary. It's like, whoa, what are you doing? Right? Are you going to hit me? So giving enrichment, we obviously have lots of enrichment that we give each day. We give them something to, boredom busters, giving them something to do. Those are things that we can do and just be mindful of your body language because our body language speaks to them as well. We always have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, and why the reason we're sharing all of these with you guys is because so often we get kind of hung up on, well, we want to get these dogs out and we want to get them time with people. And while that is the case, we do want to give them socialization. All of these other things also make a huge impact as well. So even if you didn't, take that dog out in the playroom or something, but you dropped a treat in their kennel because that's as far as you could get with them, that's still a huge step. That's still them going, oh my gosh, someone listened to me when I told them I didn't like this, and they gave me something sweet and they said something sweet to me. Like that's a huge step for some of these dogs. So don't ever think that you're not doing enough. If you're doing things like this, these little things all add up and make a big difference for them.
Yes.
Okay, so talking about kind of with that, just what we believe we want, what we think as humans is what the dogs want is not always necessarily what they want. Just like we kind of mentioned, there's lots of other things that they might want. And that forced proximity and exposure does not necessarily mean that that's going to have a positive reaction or a positive impact on them. So dogs are really tolerant. They really do put up with a lot with us. They give us a lot of choices, or not a lot of choices. They give us a lot of chances when it comes to interacting. Like we were talking about earlier, you know, there's lots of things that they could show us before they have to make a bigger step by coming towards you or showing teeth or, you know, growling or something like that. They're doing those things like putting their ears down and backing up and being smaller. They're trying to kind of give you those little warnings of like I'm uncomfortable before they have to turn into something else. Unfortunately, or hopefully they don't have to. Um, but they also deserve to have rest without being disturbed, just like we do. Not being forced to wake up and come out of their kennel if they don't want to. If they want to stay in the back and lay in that blanket, that might be what is making them comfortable today, and that's perfectly okay. It's important that we know when to give space. So getting stuck on routine sometimes can be difficult for us. We want to take them on our walk and like, well, every dog is going all the way around the building. Some of them might only make it halfway, and that's okay. We could take them back and put them back when they're done. Listening to those choices that they want to make is important. And they also deserve consent. So I know that Beth talks a lot about this. If you are ever with us for any of our recesses or any of the educational programs that we've had throughout the years, I know we've brought this up quite a bit, but touching and petting, they deserve consent for that just as much as humans do. So making sure that we're not just continually petting just because it feels good and it feels natural and you know we think that it's fine. It's always good to take a step back, take our hands off, and let them choose if that's still what they want to keep doing when we're spending time with them. Those appeasement behaviors of like, well, I'm just going to do this because I should, and I'm going to be a good dog and I'm going to let this happen doesn't necessarily mean that they want that to happen. So anytime we can kind of take a break and go, let's see if they come back to me for more pets, or let's see if they bring me the ball and they want to keep doing this. And letting them have that choice is important. And then always treating every animal in our care as individuals, just like we would want to be treated ourselves. They all have their little different personalities, like we talked about at the beginning. Some of them are just more naturally fearful and they need a little bit of extra time to warm up to people. And other dogs are going to be like, yeah, I just met you and you're my best friend and let's do whatever you want. Everybody's a little bit different. And we need to keep that in mind whenever we're spending time with our animals in care, that we might have to shift and we might have to rearrange what our plans were for the day when we come in for our shifts to be something else because a dog is telling you they need something different.
I love it. On that note, as far as the consent to pet, I think it's always better with any dog, is let them come to your space. And I usually keep my hand down by my leg and let them sniff it, my palm out. I don't reach over, and pet. Like this picture, this dog, this is a one of those freeze frames where it could go either way. It could be, I'm soft, but we do see a little bit of a whale eye. The ears are back, but the whiskers are up. She looks soft, but how does she feel about the pupils are not dilated, I don't believe. How does she feel about the hand coming over the head? So I always let them come to me. And then when I pet under the chin a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. And they're going to tell you what they like. And sometimes they'll rearrange themselves and say, okay, scratch my back. That feels really good. But I usually don't over pet. That's something that we humans love to do. And that's not necessarily what they need. They're going to tell you if they want it or not. Some will shake you off. Some will like flinch. And usually if we do the over the head and they're already fearful, they're really going to flinch. So we don't want to reach over. We just do a little tickle under the chin. Stop. They're going to tell you. They're either really going to get right in there and say yes, or they're going to say, I can't do that right now. Thank you very much for asking.
I just wanted to add that I would not try to pet that dog after my hand went over and that was the body language on the freeze frame.
I know.
Too-
That's why I had
too
to bring
risky.
it up.
Yeah, too risky. I'm glad you pointed that out. I don't think it's soft behavior. That ear looks back. That eye looks a little wide. It's not dilated, but I can see a lot of the white there, and that mouth is pretty. It could be neutral,
Stretched.
but it seems like it's
Right.
back to me.
It's stretched
So,
back. So that's why I had to bring it up. And
Yeah.
it could be okay, but because we don't know what happened after. that reach. But that's one of the things that in the shelter environment, I really try to stress in our recesses is that I've been doing this for a very long time, and I'll tell you what, it's a puzzle every time because every dog is individual, like you said, Ashley. And you have to pay attention. Pay attention, and they're gonna tell you, you just don't assume anything. They're gonna tell you if it's okay or not, and this one would be, yeah, I probably would just reach under, and less petting is better until they tell you. And then just don't overdo it because dogs and cats can be overstimulated in the environment. You don't know what's coming around the corner. That could say, oh my gosh, there's a problem, and things change quickly. So that's just rule of thumb. Less petting is better. And yes, I think somebody mentioned that cats are the same way. They need to come to you. We just let them take a sniff if they want to come forward or not. And they're going to tell you whether they want to be scritched or not.
Yeah, and something I just want to point out is another tip. If you've gone through positive start training or recesses or anything, you've probably gotten this. But anytime you're going into a new environment, so whether that's the playrooms or outside or in a acquaintance room or in the play yards, a great thing that I like to do, and I know a lot of team members like to do, is just to let the dog just have its time when they enter the room. Just let it kind of walk around, sniff around, see what kind of toys are out, see what kind of treats are hanging around. Not trying to engage right away and just letting them get their bearings is a big deal. And like I said, even just outside, step outside that door. And I know it's kind of a rush to get them out because there's people and there's stuff happening sometimes in the shelter. But once they're out there, give them that moment to kind of, where am I? Are we okay? Is there any dangers around? Who's been here? Let me sniff around and see what kind of animals or other things that have been in this space. And that can really calm a lot of dogs down when they have that opportunity to just gather that information and feel better about where they're at.
It's like scanning the room before you start talking,
Yeah.
right? I just wanted to pause really quickly before we went on, if you don't mind, because I think this is a great time to add one of the questions that was in the chat. So Diane asked, is carrying a stuffed animal fear or anxiety?
I would say that sometimes it makes them feel a little bit better. There's retrieving type dogs that just love to carry a toy, and it just makes them feel good. I had a little bit of a skittish dog years ago, little 20-pound spaniely mix, and she'd get nervous when people would come, and she would bark a lot. So I taught her to go get her favorite stuffy, and she would go get that thing when people would come, and she would maybe bark with it muffled in her mouth, but her tail was wagging and she calmed down. So we brought that stress level down. So it can be a stress reliever for them. It could be a comfort. It could be a habit. Definitely better than carrying the leash, right? But yeah, we have quite a few dogs that will pick up a toy and just say, no, I just don't. I sometimes they'll carry it and they'll drop it and carry it and drop it, and some dogs just hang on to it and don't drop it. It could be something that's the only thing right now that is making me feel okay.
Just looking at the entire picture, like we talked about, the rest of the body language. Are they
Right,
loose,
for sure.
waggly, and wiggly? Are they neutral? Are they tight and holding? Is the body tight? Ears back, how are they looking at you when you're holding that toy? I mean, that could also be a sign of resource guarding, like they can be protective over their toy. But again, they're going to give, usually most dogs that are great communicators or good communicators are going to give you other signs if they're uncomfortable, and that's why they're holding the toy, because they don't want you to touch it and they're using it as a coping mechanism. Other toys, other dogs, they're just happy, it's their toy. So you kind of got to look at the whole picture. But yes, I think the answer is it could be, but it could also not be, and that's how a lot of these things are, unfortunately. Is it's up to the person interacting with them. Just like we're saying, the dogs like to gather as much information before they make decisions about what they're going to do in a space or who they're going to spend their time with and how they're going to spend it. We need to be doing that too if we're a dog handler. We need to be constantly communicating back and forth with the dog and hearing what they're saying to us. And I'm saying here, but looking at what they're telling us because they're not
Mhm.
necessarily speaking. They're showing us with their body what they're comfortable with. So I can't say for sure without knowing more to the picture because I would need to see the dog or have more explanation about what their body is, but it could be, it could not be. So hopefully that answers your question, Diane. Sorry, there's not a good answer or a direct answer.
Well, it depends with a lot of things. It depends.
I will say if you are spending time with a dog in shelter and they have a stuffy and they enjoy carrying it, most definitely like let them carry it. And we've got a couple different ways that sometimes we can touch on in trainings, depends on how much time and if we have a dog that is a stuffy dog that we can touch on. But if you ever have like questions or you come across a dog like that, please feel free to grab one of your coordinators or reach out to us and we can hopefully find some time to work with that specific dog or a dog with that needs with you. We'd be happy to do that because we do have some tools of how to kind of like redirect when they do grab toys a lot from you and things, even on walks when they want to hold them, but you can't keep grabbing it from the ground and because they want it. So we have some tips and tricks if you ever come across that. Just feel free to ask. Okay, behavior decisions. So we wanted to talk a little bit about this too, because we know sometimes when you see a dog that is fearful in a kennel and you're worried that like, is it getting enough time with people or is it getting enough time outside? Or, why has it got an airplane carrier inside of its kennel and all these different things that you might be seeing that you're unsure of why those things are happening or if enough is happening. So overall, when we talk about what we want to see with our behavior and how our behavior team kind of makes some decisions, nobody wants to see a dog in distress. We're all working at the shelter, right, with the same goal in mind of making sure that we give these animals the best possible environment that we can. And we want to create a safe environment for dogs and people. So sometimes the decisions we make, like putting up a sign that says, please don't walk this dog if you're a volunteer, staff only, or go slow. When we're putting those different signs on it, we're always keeping in mind what creates safety for everyone involved, the animal and the people. So that's why sometimes doesn't necessarily mean that the dog is showing outward signs of aggression or anything like that, but fearfulness can sometimes lead to reactions that need the animal to feel safer, so they make choices like to bite out or something like that. So we always just want to err on the side of caution that we're not putting too much on the animals or the volunteers that would lead to something like that in the future. We sometimes make those choices, like to say staff only, just to give them time to acclimate. I know there's tons of moving pieces at the shelter at all times. If you've been with us for a while, you've maybe experienced when we have dogs on the adoption floor that aren't ready for adoption, but maybe we're full in other areas and we need to use those kennels. So sometimes there's dogs that might not be great in that space, but we have to use it. So we might not have them as volunteer walkable dogs, and we make those decisions on purpose. Might be just giving them some time to acclimate. Just another thing to keep in mind is that there's always more to what we're seeing straightforward in the kennel. So what I mean by that is if we see the walking log and we've seen that this dog hasn't been out in a few days, there could be so much more going on behind the scenes. There could be specialized times that the behavior team's working with them. There may be BMOD volunteers that could be working with them. So just try not to like get yourself too worked up that this might not be, what I haven't been able to walk this dog in like 3 days. Have they been outside at all? They probably have had some sort of interaction, whatever they've been comfortable with. It might just not be something that you're seeing personally. And of course, you can always ask questions to your coordinator if you're concerned. Decisions can take time. So what we determine of like what's best placement for these animals can take a lot of time sometimes, and we don't want it to. But things change all the time in the shelter, and how our animals are reacting to different things change all the time. So we may decide to put them in a foster home. We may decide that they need to spend more time in the back half of the building before they go up for adoption, or they might be up for adoption and then go back to the back half of the building because we decided they weren't quite ready yet. So things change all the time. Doesn't necessarily mean it's this big, scary thing. It just means we're trying to figure out the best way to handle the situation with this animal for the best possible outcome. I'm gonna pause, just make sure you guys wanna, there's a lot on this page. So is there anything you want to add so far, either of you?
I just think, yeah, that is true. There's so much that goes on and we're trying really hard to accommodate for the dogs so they can come in growly or snappy or so scared, shut down, not eating, to changing, and sometimes it needs medication adjustment to see if it works, but want to make everybody safe. And we don't want that dog to escalate and make a decision that's going to be not a good decision for anybody, including the dog. So sometimes they come in and they are really struggling and we can't handle them, to I'm fine and now I'm really struggling again. So, I mean, things just happen, and like I said, we do walkthroughs every single day. The dogs are on the radar. We're doing our best to do what we can for them, to get them to the point where they can make it up for adoption. If that's the answer, sometimes it's a rescue, but yeah, things change daily. I can take a dog out today, and tomorrow when I take them out, we might have, this is deemed a fearful dog and now he's aroused and he's jumping and mouthing on me. So we have to do some different things for him. So those things can change, and, but it's on the radar.
And before I keep moving with these, I just wanted to add that there are a lot of things that we try, whether that's just, items and things in their kennels, but also processes. So you heard Beth mention, like sending them to rescue. And I know not everybody is familiar with things, and I won't get super in depth into all the different things that we have at our disposal for us trying things. But if you have questions, please ask, because I know not everybody knows all the different ways that we can work with these animals. There's no way for everyone to know every way. And even though you've been here a long time, you might, know a lot, but you can still ask questions if you're not sure. We always want to answer those. We don't want to leave anybody in the dark. It's not a one size fits all kind of process to get our dogs available for adoption and into a home, and I'm sure you guys know that really well. If there was like a clear cut, step by step way to do things, I think things would look a lot different in the shelter environment, because we would be moving dogs through so fast, but it's not. Just like Beth said, things go back and forth. And sometimes you think you're going to do one thing with this dog. Maybe you thought it was going to go to rescue, and maybe now we're keeping it because something changed in the dog or something, all these different things could happen. So as much as we'd love to slap a timeline on how long it's going to take to get on the adoption floor and adopted, we really can't, because it could change all the time. Some of the things that we do help assist with their familiarity and routine. And sometimes that means just working with the behavior team instead of volunteers, or other staff members. Sometimes that means strictly working with the behavior team and some BMOD volunteers potentially, because sometimes just too many people can throw them off. And if we notice that, we might do that so that they can build some familiarity with a specific person or a couple people, before we overexpose them to something. And then we always want to be a partner with you guys. So our team is available. Obviously, the volunteer department is right there. The behavior team might not always be able to stop and answer questions, because they've got stuff to do, but that's why we're here, so that you can redirect to us. So if you ever have questions about any of the animals that you're spending time with, please ask either myself, Jen, Kellen, Allie, whoever your coordinator is, please, we will be happy to do that. And if that means we can bring in the behavior team, Beth would like to talk to you, more in depth or anything like that, we're more than happy. We've set up meetings like that plenty of times. So we'd love to.
I also want to add here that, all of these I mean, it really is a testament to all the things that we're doing to help animals succeed. But sometimes, as much as we try to help animals succeed, sometimes there isn't a happy outcome. And I want to mention that here because it's really important for us to be transparent. And I think for you guys to know that, because sometimes we will try all the tricks there are, but a dog is just really, really struggling to cope in this environment. And it does become a safety risk at some point. And we have to decide, you know what, we can no longer keep this dog up for adoption because we're putting either other animals, volunteers, staff, or potentially guests at risk, even if we're not seeing something in the shelter all the time or with every person, it's a behavior we know that could pop up when they go into a home. And there's a liability there. We don't want a dog to hurt another person or animal. That's something we take very seriously. And none of these decisions ever, if it does come to that, are made lightly. We all work together as a team to put in as many resources as we can, whether that's volunteer spending time with dogs, like Beth said, doing our different behavior plans and doing our morning walkthroughs and trying medication. These are all things that didn't really always exist in animal welfare. So it's a beautiful thing to see so much progress and seeing us be able to, put out dogs that maybe wouldn't have been able to be adopted in the past, just because there were no resources to help dogs who were struggling, whether those were behaviors that they came in with or behaviors that developed from being in a kennel, which we are starting to see an increase of dogs developing behaviors from being in a kennel, just because, like they're with us a little bit longer for that. So it's really important to know that we're all in this together. We're all doing our part. You guys definitely play a huge part in that, from the foster side, from the volunteer side. Um, even just being an advocate and having people come in and, adopt or coming to telling them to look into fostering or volunteering, even if you're not specifically doing those tasks yourself, but you're talking about our work and talking about the fact that Michigan Humane goes above and beyond to save lives it has a huge impact. There are still people who think shelters are scary, scary places, and every animal that comes in, there's a time limit and then they're euthanized, or, they just euthanize a dog because it's a pit bull or because it's not dog friendly. No, we put plenty of dogs up for adoption that aren't necessarily dog friendly with every single other dog, or maybe are struggling with some level of reactivity or possession aggression, or I shouldn't use that word, but resource guarding is a better way to describe that. We are doing our best. We want you to know that. If you have questions, we are super transparent. We can talk to you about any decisions and things that we've worked through, and know that no one takes this lightly. We all love dogs here. That's why we're doing this work. I mean, I wouldn't be here for 14 years if I didn't think that this was an organization that was committed to doing the absolute best for the people and the animal that are entrusted in its care. And Beth, you wouldn't be here for 30 some plus years if you didn't believe that and haven't seen the progress that we make. So just wanting to share that all with you guys as well, because we are happy to answer those questions. We know we just did a presentation about grief last month. It's hard. Sometimes it's the hardest thing about what we do is knowing that not every animal can make it. And sometimes that we just as a person can't save them, even when we have a team of people working on it. It's just a reality that is sometimes things that we will find out about or be exposed to in working with this field. And it doesn't mean we have to give up. Doesn't mean that everyone is going to work super close to the dogs because maybe that's too hard for them. But we're here to talk through that with you. We're here to help you if you're grieving. It is sad and it's normal to be sad, and it's normal to sometimes have questions and not understand why, a dog might be great with one person and then 2 days later we saw a behavior that was really scary. So just wanted to put that out there because I thought while we're talking about behavior decisions and saying all these things that it was a good point to talk about it from the other side as well.
Definitely. Sorry, I know Beth, I think you have to run, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's okay. Go ahead. I can finish this up. Jen, if you can stay too, that'd be great. We're just going to wrap up the end, but thank you so much for your input. If you guys have questions for Beth that you weren't able to ask yet, feel free to drop them in the chat or email them to us and we'll get those to her.
Yeah, and I just want to do a plug for Recess. If anybody wants to learn some of the behaviors and tools for the trade, please join us for Recess on Thursdays at our Westland facility and Tuesdays at Mackey. Thank you guys for joining us today. Really appreciate it, and I hope I see you all in the future.
Thank you, Beth.
Bye-bye.
All right, I know it's 7 o'clock, so if anyone else does need to jump off, go ahead, but we're just going to wrap up this last part about what you guys as volunteers can do to help support, these dogs that have fear in our care. So some of those ways include getting consent for petting, just like we talked about, kind of giving those breaks between and then keep going. If they come back and ask you for more, Going slow, hasty handling is unsafe. So taking the time to read their paperwork, find out some information, test, kind of what their reaction is at the door before you take them out, not just opening a door really fast and looping a dog up and they're maybe not ready to go with you, or they were hoping to tell you they didn't want to. Going slow with them and making those good decisions. When in doubt, ask your coordinator or another staff member for help with reading body language or making the decision with a dog. So it does say coordinator and staff member. Obviously, if they're bigger conversations or they're going to take a little bit longer, please direct those to your coordinator. That's what we're here for, and we have time carved out for that. Staff members, of course, can help you in the moment, like we mentioned, if they're, the dog's not moving or you're not sure how to get them back to their kennel or something like that. They could most likely help in the moment, but they are, doing other things. So if you want to have a bigger, lengthy conversation, just reach out to one of your coordinators. Trust the shelter staff and decisions as best as possible. We want to make sure that we include you guys, like Jen said, on what's going on. And we want to be open and honest with you with whatever processes that we've had. So again, feel free to ask. We'll have those conversations with you guys. Another thing that you can do, we kind of mentioned this already too, but educate others. So, talking about the fact that what we do in the shelter, or, talking up those fearful dogs and letting them know that they are really sweet. And they might just need some extra time. I know some of you like to talk to our guests and, just letting them know that like these dogs aren't gonna be cowering forever if they're a little cowardy, but giving them proper information so that they can make an educated decision for themselves, not just talking them up and saying like, this dog is great. It may be great, but they need to have the caveat that there may be some work with it. So if you're comfortable and understanding of that situation, please feel free to educate guests like that. And then reporting concerns to your coordinator. So anytime you guys have a concern about an animal, whether it's how it's acting, you're concerned that it's not getting something, but also concerns of it moving forward. If you've noticed something on a walk with the dog that you didn't notice before, please always let us know that, because that could be brand new information. You guys get to spend a lot more quality time with these animals a lot of times, and you might see different things. You're exposing them to different things because you're going outside or you're going in rooms, or you're at an event or anything like that. There's different things that you get to expose them to than a staff or a behavior team member might be able to. So please let us know when you're seeing those, because if we don't see them, we don't get to help work through that process with that animal. And we could be putting them out into the community with something that we don't know is existing. And I don't say that in a negative way of like this dog is, necessarily dangerous and we're putting them out in the community. That could be the case, but we could be missing some warning signs that we want to make sure that we notify their new owner about too, of, behaviors that they might want to work through with this animal.
Yeah, it just helps set them up for success, right? If we tell an adopter what they should be prepared for, it's likely less likely that the animal comes back to us because they know, like, oh yeah, this is the Humane Society told me this. There is maybe a little resource starting, or they're maybe really barky at other dogs this past. So they are prepared. Like, okay, maybe I'm gonna spend time in my yard, or I'm not gonna go to a play dog park right away, or maybe I'm going to cross the street if we're coming up to another dog, just because it makes it easier for them to handle. So again, you're right, Ashley, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but the sooner we know about a behavior, the sooner we can start intervention, and the more we can prepare a potential adopter so they feel empowered and prepared to manage whatever that is or work with that dog until they, are feeling confident in that situation.
Okay, so I just have some resources that I'll send out to you guys in your um, big email that you're going to get with the link for this and all of the slides and information and additional resources. But if you guys have any questions or anything, I can stay on for a few minutes if there's anything in the chat that we need to touch on. If not, if you guys need to go and you still have questions, like I said, please feel free to email us and ask those questions. But thank you guys all for being here. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording so that we can ask questions and things.